he's a beautiful example of how we can start creating change, not just for ourselves, the privileged ones, for our families, but also for our communities and inshallah for many generations to come, starting from where we are and starting from what we are. Giancarlo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. RegenerateX, Canay, Atalay, doing great work. I just wanted to make sure that, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm not an academician. You'll see my slides are about my family, and you'll see my garden. So, I'm a documentarian. I'm investigative journalist. I like to investigate the inner landscape a lot. So when Canay said, "Do you want to talk about regeneration?" I immediately thought about this quote by Satish Kumar. Who knows that Satish Kumar? Yeah, but so for those that don't, I recommend it. Soil, Soul, Society. So basically, in these few slides, I will just share how in the last 20 years, I organized my life to embody this slogan. So this slogan, which can be summarized like soil being connection with nature, soul connection with oneself, and society connection with others, right? And it seemed quite obvious because, imagine you take a bunch of humans, you put them to live in a planet. What do you want? You want them to get along with the planet, with the environment. You want them to get along among themselves, and you want them to get it together with themselves and not going crazy. So it's quite obvious that this is the right slogan, right? But yet, look at the previous three-word slogan that we are familiar with. In Christianity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, no mention with nature. In French Revolution, égalité, liberté, fraternité, no mention of relation with the environment. French Constitution, the American Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, nothing. Even in our beloved movement of mind, body, and spirit, yes, we talk about the holistic connection, but nothing with the environment. And this is understandable. We came from a past of classes and monarchy and classism, and so the empower the individual was important. But I think we went a bit too far. So look at the soil. I asked ChatGPT, give me the most important and relevant quotes on soil ever existed. Zach Bush, I added it. It wasn't ChatGPT. But then, of course, for Roosevelt, for hundreds of years, all these giants have been saying that, soil and connection with the planet is like key to our survival. A nation that destroys soil destroys itself. Great connector of lives. So what happened? Intuitively, it's obvious that we need to connect nature with the soil. Giant intellectuals of all time have been set up forever. And instead, look where we are. This is the loss of biodiversity, which means that with industrial agriculture, and the previous speaker covered on that a little bit, and the permaculturist and mycelium expert in the room, so you understand that basically what happened with industrial agriculture, in order to farm for money, you not to farm for quantity. To farm for quantity, you pick one crop and you go like thousands of acres of one crop, corn, potato, tomato, whatever that is. And then, of course, nature is not designed to produce only one species, so you need to spray it with glyphosate and pesticide. And so what happened is that there's been this, biodiversity depletion. And what happened on a degraded soil full of chemicals and without biodiversity, it gets so dry and the roots are not spongy, so it doesn't capture CO2 and it doesn't capture water. Like in the previous slide, you saw the mycelium around the roots, when it's like, there is no mycelium here. And then the impact, I don't know if you remember the previous quote on Zach Bush, the origin of all disease, all the health problem comes from the soil, because from this, when you have the corn or the potato from an industrial farm, there is no biodiversity, so there is no micronutrients that does not feed your macrobiota. So this is the macrobiota, which they say might not be the second brain, but be the first brain for level of complexity. I think it's 10 with 9-0 of how complex is the microbiota. And so, like in America, for example, everybody's eating from industrial farming. When you eat, I remember I was at an airport recently, and I had a melon and a chicken, and I swear to God, I asked my son to close his eyes. He couldn't tell which one would what. So basically, we have this situation, and then, it's not a coincidence that COVID hit America so much. We are really getting sick because of we're not eating real food. So that's where we go to my personal story. I started 2 agricultural experiments. One is my own little garden at home. We have 1 hectare of biodiversity. It's radical biodiversity. So there is not one plant which is the same to the one next door. So we have trees, vegetables, and herbs all completely mixed up. So this is not commercial, right? Because to harvest that, everything happens at different time. We rotate the fruits and vegetables. So it's not really a commercial endeavor, but I haven't been sick in 3 years. Like when we were living in New York, every year we got a little bit flu, a bit of fever. And this whole family has been like completely sick-free since we've been living in Ibiza and eating from the garden. Every morning our gardener goes and get whatever, sometimes get what the land gave us, and we cook according to what is there. And that has been amazing to get into that cycle. And then with some partner, we created Tierra Viva Ibiza, which is bigger, which is 20 hectares, and we're trying to find a commercial way to make it financially sustainable. So we are raising chicken, and we're having then rotating around the land. It's very challenging because people don't want to pay more. You go to the supermarket, you go to Mercadona, and the chicken is like 6 kilograms per kilo, but then it tastes like the melon. And then our chicken is 12 euro per kilo. So, people don't buy, they think that money they save, who pay for that money is your health, is the government, is the taxpayer, is the environment. It's like crazy. Okay, so now soul. That's so I spend a lot of time to try to wrap my hand around this idea of the soul. So the soul becomes dyed with the color of its toe. That's already Marco Aurelius. The soul is the truth of who we are. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Let's go to the next slide. So Jung said that one does not become enlightened by imagining a figure of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So I feel that, there is like 2 sides of us, right? Like this lady you can't see, but she has a halo, and then she has like the evil horns. So just bear with me, very quick example. So you are 5 years old, you're like playing in the garden, there's a dog barking, and you hear this dog barking, and you don't know what it means that the dog barks. But then he comes to you and he bites you in your legs, and you're 5, and you go to the hospital, 10 stitches, and now you program in your head, in the neurocircuitry, that a dog barking is associated with pain, and then stitches, and weeks of a little baby with pain. So that neurocircuitry is there forever, and sometimes it program you to respond to other unusual sound in the same way. So you start recording that all kinds of unusual sounds might be a threat, right? So what happened? Almost 2 parts of you, right? There is your authentic self, which I think is the soul, and then you have the wounded self. So you go through life, and there is 2 ways that you can react to things happening. To a dog barking, or to a girlfriend leaving you, or to a father not showing up at the school recital. Basically, you can either, respond from the authentic self, and that's a response, or you react from the wounded self, and that's a reaction that then comes with a trigger, comes with anger, comes with uncontrolled emotion. So how do I find my soul? I need to really make my unconscious conscious. I need to do the shadow work. I need to understand what are the dog barking in childhood that program me to basically operate through the wounded self. And so my personal story is psychedelics. So I did ayahuasca. My wife gave me ayahuasca in 2005 already. And so we know from the neuropsychopharmacologists, they studied this with fMRI. The ayahuasca has, like all the tryptamine, so DMT, psilocybin, LSD, they reduce the blood supply in 3 key areas of the brain: the prefrontal cortex, the thalamus, and the median cortex, something like that. So what happened is that the full mode network, Michael Pollan calls it the closest thing to our egoic armor. It's like the closest thing to the director of the orchestra of your brain. So the tryptamines reduce this default mode network. It's like the director of the brain go to bed. And so now the egoic armor, this armor is all the trauma from the dog barking. That it's like they build the cartilage. It's like I fell with a motorbike last year and I almost tear my Achilles tendon. So the body produced this cartilage around the tendon, right? So in the brain is the same thing. That kid with the barking, in order to protect itself, he created the armor around the neurological tear of the dog, and now it can't see dog anymore. But so that's a wounded self, his relationship with the dog. So the tryptamines come in and they melt this cartilage. They weaken the default mode network so the authentic self can come out. So I'm not saying we should all just do ayahuasca to allow the soul, the authentic self, to emerge and to subdue the wounded self, but it helps. It helps to start the process. I've been doing, I think several hundred ceremonies. This is a DMT experiment. A friend of mine from Ibiza wanted to connect with entities, and so he persuaded the Imperial College of London to give people like me, experienced psychonaut, intravenous DMT for up to 1 hour. With an anesthetic machine. So when you smoke DMT like that, you have a trip of 5-10 minutes and you think that's crazy. With this technology, they can send you in that space for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours. My friend wants to compete with NASA to connect with entities. But anyhow, that's a different. That's a different. Sorry, you did that experiment? Nice. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to accelerate. So the third was society. So I asked ChatGPT about society, and then I had to ask to add community because I think Satish Kumar wanted the S, but really meant community. So anyhow, you can imagine again, from all this giant of literature and Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, it's all about society, service of others. Let me look at the other slide. Okay, so when some people think they are in community, but they are only in proximity. True community requires commitment and openness. It is a willingness to extend yourself to encounter and know the other. So my experience with community, I was developing a TV show and I went to Tamera and Damanhur and Oroville. And I asked what's all about living in community. And what they were saying is that, in some lucky relationship, marriage is a container to mirror each other for growth, right? And in those communities, they were doing that on a community level. So they were meeting, 3 times a week. Not everybody will come all the time, but, the vast majority would come and they would mirror to each other what they thought they've done out of the wounded self, and it's a collective healing, and I think it's beautiful. I think this society are now coming. There's more and more society like that. There are more and more permaculture society like that, like Tierra Iris in Ibiza, for example. Quickly, The Good Life is a book out of a Harvard experiment. Basically, these scientists from 100 years ago, they've been following certain people and recording their life and what makes them happy. So now there is it was like 50 people, now it's 1,000. And so the author of the book were one of the first, not one of the first, but like the second or the third Harvard researcher. And at the end of this 100 years of study, what's bring people happiness, the conclusion was the quality of your relationship. So call your friends, call your kids, call your brother and sister. It's all about the quality of that relationship. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. This is quite obvious. There is a book by Johann Hari on depression. He spent 20 years studying depression. He says that basically, as humans, we have 4 basic needs, right? With food, water, shelter, and clean air. But also we need to be seen by others. We need to have a life that has purpose. We need to be seen, to be part of something bigger, that our future makes sense. And so this is a recent discovery of my wife and I. Terry really does this research saying that we don't self-regulate, we co-regulate. We don't have to kid ourselves that we can do everything on our own. We are intrinsically connected. Yuval Harari was saying that Homo sapiens prevailed against the other humans because of their ability to collaborate and to cooperate with a huge number of strangers. And like in movies, for example, when I go to test screening, when I see a rough cut alone, I feel a certain way. The moment I see with an audience, I feel different. And there's all this research. Rupert Sheldrake has done all this research that when people see you, look at you from the back, most of the time you feel it. So imagine what happened, to a husband and wife living together. We don't self-regulate, we co-regulate. Okay, this is my personal way to create community. This is the group that I was telling you about, the DMT experiment. It's called Thüringham Initiative. Those are all the world experts on psychedelic experiments. So there is neuropsychopharmacologists, physicists, anthropologists. This is like my second family. My wife does this Thursday group therapy using compassion inquiry by Gabor Mate, and that's another family of mine. This is a brotherhood that we have we call it PBB, Peter Bond Brotherhood, and that's also we meet once a year. We do ayahuasca in the morning. This is the more like on the sports side, and the last slide is a bit more of the same. I was thinking, looking at this photo, when we are kids in class, our class is our world, right? We are obsessed about who's doing what. My son is 10, and it's all about the class and the teacher. His word is class. But then we become an adult, and we become so individualistic. I think we should keep the mentality of the school classmate even when we grow up. This is more ayahuasca. I took so much time. I just want to say one thing. In conclusion, I was listening to a podcast by Eric Weinstein and Chris Williamson. Eric Weinstein is a mathematician and physicist and biologist and super smart and super sensitive. He was talking about how he would get emotional, scuba diving. He was talking about the cathedral in Istanbul. He was talking about the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Then he played some little guitar, Waele or something. And I felt this is a guy so sensitive. And then at the end he said, this planet is doomed. I'm really working with this new generation of physicists that go through this, that work on the quantum gravity, which Einstein didn't understand, because we need to find a way to go to a different planet. And I was like, fuck that. He said, when you have this shirt, there is no planet B. He was like, there is planet B. There's a lot of planet B. We have to get there. And I was like, fuck you. I think if we do the soil, soul, society, if we make an effort to, if we don't have a piece of land, we all have access to a piece of land. But if we really don't, make sure we go to the farmer's market, the soul, the shadow work is accessible. There's so many tools, and the society, keep touch with your friends. Thank you very much.